Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a single, really powerful idea that managed to untangle one of the most chaotic relationships out there, the one between politics and the media. We're talking about an invention, really, that solved a puzzle that had researchers stumped for decades.
You know the question, right? Is that classic chicken and egg problem. Does the media set the political agenda, telling us what to care about? Or does the political world call the shots and the media just follows along? Who's really pulling the strings here?
For the longest time, the entire field of political communication was just stuck. They were desperately searching for one solid theory to explain this incredibly complex dance, but they just kept hitting a wall.
So, why were they so stuck? Well, it turns out the field was facing some really big hurdles, some fundamental problems that were preventing any kind of real breakthrough.
It basically boiled down to three main issues. First off, nobody could really agree on what media independence even meant. It was this vague philosophical concept. Second, pretty much all the research was focused on a handful of Western democracies, so how could you apply it globally? You couldn't. And third, maybe the biggest problem, was that they kept creating these super complicated frameworks that were basically impossible to test in the real world.
So what the field really needed, what it was crying out for, was an invention, a concept so elegant and simple that it could just slice through all that confusion. Something that would work not just in the US or the UK, but anywhere.
And that breakthrough? It finally came from Professor Gadi Wolfsfeld. He was a brilliant communications scholar who invented a completely new way of looking at the entire problem. He called it the Politics-Media-Politics Principle, or just PMP for short. And the core idea is so simple it's almost genius. It's not a straight line. It's a continuous cycle. So here's how this brilliant cycle actually works. First, something happens in the world of politics. A new law, a big protest, a scandal, whatever. Then the media reacts. They decide what's newsworthy and shape that event into a story. And then, this is the crucial part, that news coverage feeds back and directly influences the political world all over again, kicking off a whole new cycle. Now, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. PMP is a politics-first model. Yep, the media is a huge player, no doubt, but it's the political environment itself that's the primary driver. It's what gets the whole engine started.
To really make this idea stick, Wolfsfeld came up with this incredibly powerful analogy. It's a fantastic way to visualize this whole dynamic.
The analogy is just perfect. Think of politics as the fire, and the media is the wind. Now, the wind can't start a fire by itself, right? It's totally irrelevant if there's nothing burning. But once a political fire gets going, the media, the wind, can dramatically fan those flames, change the fire's direction, and totally alter how intense it becomes. Okay, so let's see how this thing actually works in the wild. We can use a case study from Wolfsfeld's own research, and it's just a perfect illustration of the PMP cycle in action.
So first step, politics. The political environment changes. For years, the debate around the death penalty was all about morality, or if it was constitutional. But then, activists started hammering on a powerful new idea. A new frame. What if we're executing innocent people? That was the spark. That was the political fire starting.
So what happened next? The media reacted. This innocence frame completely changed the game. All of a sudden, a story about a prisoner getting freed from death row wasn't some boring legal brief. No way. It was this gripping, dramatic, human interest story that editors absolutely could not ignore. The wind picked up, and it started blowing hard in this new direction. And finally, we see the cycle complete itself. This huge wave of media coverage had a direct, measurable impact back on the world of politics. The constant focus on innocence totally shifted public opinion, it put crazy amounts of pressure on politicians, and it led directly to policy changes and even moratoriums in several states. Boom, the cycle.
Look, this wasn't just another academic idea, destined to collect dust on a shelf. Wolfsfeld's invention of the PMP principle was genuinely revolutionary. It gave everyone a brand new lens to understand the world.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Other scholars immediately saw how powerful it was. Claes de Vries called it compelling and a refreshing lens, a way to finally see the big picture.
Patricia Moy called it a much-needed prism, basically an essential tool you have to have if you want to make sense of all the crazy developments in politics and media today. Its ambition was a huge deal too. Stefan Walgrave pointed out that PMD did what so many others had tried and failed to do. It brought pretty much the entire field together under one single coherent idea. So, at the end of the day, what does this all mean? It means that Gadi Wolfsfeld's elegant invention, This PMP principle gave us a clear, simple, and testable model that finally brought some order to all the chaos. It answered that old chicken and egg question by showing us it's not one or the other. It's a cycle that almost always kicks off with politics.
The PMP principle is such a powerful tool, and now you have it. The next time you see a story just explode in the news, doesn't matter what it is, you can step back and ask yourself, okay, what was the fire here, and how is the wind shaping it? It gives you a whole new way to understand the deeper forces at play every single day.